Alrighty, lines and indentation. So what is a line? A line is basically an instruction for PineScript. We often refer to these lines as code or statements interchangeably. So this is line 1, this is line 2, line 3, and so on. Empty lines, like on line 4, have no effect on the compiler. You can have as many empty lines as you want. As far as I know, there is no known limit for the amount of lines you can have in a script. So if we come down here, there's 73 lines in this script. I can just keep on adding the lines, and I've never met the bottom. Save that, it's all good. There's also no known limit for the length of one line. So on line 3, if I want to write all my code on one line, and I can do this by just copying this here and pasting it as many times as I feel like. It will just scroll over, I can save it, and TradingView won't give me a problem. In most cases though, you'll want to turn this into a multi-line statement so it's easier to read. This is where indentation comes in. We can expand our single line instructions onto multiple lines by using the proper spacing from the edge of the editor. And the edge is over here on the left. So I'm going to go back to the previous version before I save that. Reset this. So in order for me to create a multi-line statement, we need to prepend each subsequent line with any number of spaces that is not a multiple of 4. So for line 3, if I want to change this and put this onto multiple lines, we'll need to bring the next instruction onto a new line and prepend it with at least one space, not 0 spaces, not a multiple of 4 spaces, not 8 spaces, not 12 spaces, and so on, or we'll get an error. So let me show you guys how to do that. So here we are on line 3. I can just hit enter or return, drop that line down, that instruction, and then add one space. Go ahead and save, and it's fine. I'll go ahead and add this to the chart as well so we can see it and make sure everything's looking good. So this is very simple, it's just 4. You can see 4 is being plotted on this red line, and I have the plot function down here. So if I want, I can turn that into a multi-line, and I can even make it 2 spaces. I can do the same thing here, make that 3 spaces, and the spaces in between your operators and your operands don't matter as well. Save that, it's all good. If I want to drop this down onto another line, add another space, that's 4 spaces. That's not going to work, because that's a multiple of 4. And you see down here we have an error in the console, line 3 syntax error at input, end of line without line continuation. So if you click this, it will just bring us up to line number 3, and it doesn't actually show us that our error is down here on line number 7. It's a spacing error. It's not very clear, so keep that in mind. If we go ahead and add another space, not a multiple of 4 anymore, it'll work fine. And if you notice, after 5 spaces, the Pine editor will draw a dotted vertical line right here, indicating every 4 spaces, so you don't have to count your multiples. And then after 9, you get another multiple of 4 vertical line right there, and you can keep on seeing them. So the Pine editor will kind of hint to you if you're on a multiple of 4 when you're making multiple lines. Save that, even that's okay. You cannot have comments on a multi-line statement that contains an instruction. So for example, if I wanted to add a comment here, say +1, and save this, because there's also an instruction, there's a piece of code there, there's +1, I actually get an error, and it's the same exact error as before, but this time it's because we have a comment. However though, if you would like to add some comments, you can do this by adding a line that only contains a comment without any instructions. Like this. Go ahead and save that, and nothing's wrong. Additionally, you can also have blank lines in between your multiple lines, and everything will still work fine. Save that, no problem. Have as many blank lines as you want. Multi-line statements will also work for built-in and custom functions. So here we have this built-in function here, the plot function. This is how we're plotting A. And I can go ahead and just drop this onto another line. Make sure there's more than 0 spaces. So I have 1 space in this case. Go ahead and save it. And it works fine. You can do this here, here, even here. Make sure there's 1 space. And it doesn't really matter how you space it out. It can be ugly if you want, just not a multiple of 4. That's it. And for custom functions, we haven't covered those yet, but the syntax is essentially the same. The only difference is where we start the indentation. With custom functions, they require an additional indentation of 4 spaces, which actually defines the code as part of that function. We'll cover custom functions in more detail in another video, but when you're making multi-lines inside, it's exactly the same. However, the edge of the editor inside of a custom function actually starts here, 4 spaces in. If that doesn't make sense right now, don't worry. We're going to cover that later. And that's it.